Welcome back to Coin Nexa Vault. Before we dive in, I need you to understand something. The Jefferson Nickels sitting in your change jar right now are not all equal, and by the time this video is done, you're going to know exactly which ones to pull out immediately, because every single coin on today's list has a real story, a real dollar figure, and a real reason collectors are actively hunting for them right now. And the last coin on this list is the kind of find that makes grown adults drive straight to a coin dealer the same day they discover it, so stay locked in from start to finish. Here's something most people get completely wrong about the 1991 Jefferson Nickel. They assume because it's from 1991 it's too recent to matter, too common to be valuable, too modern to have anything interesting going on beneath the surface, and that assumption is exactly what makes the people who know better very, very happy. The Philadelphia Mint struck an enormous volume of nickels in 1991, and in high production years like this one, quality control becomes a numbers game. The sheer pace of striking means that certain dies produce coins with dramatically sharper, fuller strikes than others, and the specimens that came off the press with what graders call a full steps designation on the reverse, meaning all 5 or 6 steps of Monticello's staircase are completely, crisply separated with no merging, no flatness, no weakness anywhere across the full width. Those coins are genuinely scarce in a way that would surprise most people. Here's exactly what to check on your own coin. Flip it over to the reverse and look at the base of Monticello, the building at the center of the design, and focus specifically on the horizontal lines that represent the steps leading up to the entrance. Run your eye along all 5 of them from left edge to right edge and ask yourself whether each line is clean and distinct all the way across, or whether they blur together anywhere in the middle or at the sides, because that distinction is everything. A 1991 Jefferson Nickel with no special designation might fetch $1 or $2 in circulated condition, but a certified MS-67 full steps example, graded and slabbed by PCGS or NGC, has sold in the range of several $100s, and MS-67 FS coins in this date are legitimately hard to come by, which is why registry collectors actively pursue them. The Philadelphia Mint in 1991 was running at enormous production volume as the U.S. economy moved through a period of significant circulation demand, and that high-output environment is precisely why a well-struck survivor stands out so dramatically from the sea of average examples. It's a coin that had to beat the odds just to come out looking right. The condition disclaimer applies here as it does everywhere. What your coin is actually worth depends on its specific grade, whether it meets full steps criteria under professional examination, and what a certified third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC determines when they evaluate it. But knowing what to look for is the first step, and now you do. What's coming up next makes this one look like a warm-up, because the 1976 Jefferson Nickel has a story tied to one of the most significant years in American history, and the detail that makes certain examples extraordinary is hiding somewhere most people never think to check. Next, 1976 Jefferson Nickel, and if you think a coin from America's bicentennial year is just a novelty, a feel-good collectible with a flag theme and nothing more, I want you to reconsider that completely, because the 1976 Jefferson Nickel is one of the most overlooked coins from one of the most emotionally charged years the U.S. Mint has ever operated in, and within the population of 1976 nickels, there are examples that serious collectors will pay real money for without hesitating. Here's the angle that most casual collectors miss entirely. 1976 was not a year when the Mint issued a special bicentennial design for the nickel. That special treatment went to the quarter, the half-dollar, and the dollar coin, which means the 1976 Jefferson Nickel is a standard design coin struck during an extraordinary year, and the coins that came out with exceptional strike quality during that high attention, high production period are the ones worth tracking down. Grab your 1976 nickel right now and go straight to the reverse. Look at Monticello's steps, same as before, but this time also pay close attention to the 2 small windows on either side of the main door of the building, because on a weakly struck example those windows are virtually invisible, just vague shadows in the metal, while on a sharply struck specimen they read as clean, defined rectangles, and that level of detail is one of the markers graders look at when assigning premium grades. A circulated 1976 Jefferson nickel is worth face value, full stop, but a certified MS-67 full steps example is a genuinely rare coin in population reports, and examples at that level have reached into the hundreds of dollars at auction, with the finest known specimens commanding even stronger prices from registry collectors building date sets. The context of 1976 matters here because the mint was under unusual public and institutional scrutiny. The bicentennial celebration meant that coin production that year was watched more closely than almost any other year of the decade, and yet the standard Jefferson nickel still managed to produce a wide quality spectrum, from flat, lifeless strikes to beautifully detailed examples that look almost proof-like under good light. Whether your coin has any collector value beyond 5 cents comes down entirely to its grade and full step status as determined by professional certification. But here's the thing, you can do a meaningful preliminary check yourself just by examining those steps and windows under a loupe before deciding whether it's worth submitting. And if you found a 1976 nickel that looks exceptional, hold on to it, because the coin coming up next on this list has a detail that's even more specific, even more checkable, and the window of examples that qualify as truly premium is even narrower. Next, 1970D Jefferson Nickel, and I'm going to lead with a direct challenge because this is a coin that even intermediate collectors frequently overlook, and the reason they overlook it is that 1970 feels like dead middle ground, not old enough to be a classic rarity, not modern enough to register on people's radar, and that blind spot has real financial consequences for anyone who doesn't know what to look for. The Denver Mint in 1970 produced Jefferson Nickels during a period of significant transition in American coinage. The late 1960s had just seen the removal of silver from dimes and quarters. The Mint was still recalibrating its production processes and alloy specifications, and the coins that came out of Denver in this era show a fascinating range of strike quality that makes population reports for high-grade examples genuinely thin. Here is your visual assignment for this coin, and it's very specific. Look at the obverse, Jefferson's portrait side, and focus on the hair detail directly above his ear and along the back of his head, because on a weakly struck 1970D that area is smooth and soft, almost featureless, while on a well-struck example you can see individual strands of hair rendered with real clarity, and that detail difference directly correlates with grade. Now flip to the reverse and do the full steps check. Look at the staircase at the base of Monticello. Check all 5 steps from left to right. Confirm they're separated cleanly, because a 1970D with both strong obverse hair detail and clean full steps is a coin that population data shows is exceptionally hard to find. A circulated 1970D is worth a few cents over face value at best, but a certified MS-66 full steps example has sold for several $100s. And if you push into MS-67 FS territory, the population becomes so thin that auction results have climbed well above that, because the collectors chasing complete date and mint Jefferson nickel sets know exactly how few examples exist at that level, and they price their bids accordingly. Denver in 1970 was operating with aging equipment relative to what would be upgraded later in the decade, and that mechanical context is part of why finding a fully struck, gem-quality example from this date and mint is so genuinely difficult. The average coin that came off the press that year simply did not have the crispness of a stronger production year. As always, the real determination of what your coin is worth requires professional grading through PCGS or NGC. Your own inspection is the first filter, but certification is what unlocks the actual collector market. And now that you've seen what makes a 1970D worth examining carefully, I need you to stay in your seat, because what's next is a coin with a story rooted in one of the most turbulent production decisions in the history of American coinage, and the detail that makes certain examples genuinely remarkable is something almost no casual collector has ever heard of. Next, 1965 Jefferson Nickel, and let's establish right away why this coin demands your full attention, because 1965 is one of the most consequential years in the entire history of United States coinage, and the Jefferson nickel that came out of that year carries context that makes it fundamentally different from nickels struck just 2 or 3 years before or after it. In 1965, Congress passed the Coinage Act that eliminated silver from dimes and quarters and reduced the silver content of the half-dollar. A seismic shift in American monetary policy driven by silver hoarding, coin shortages, and economic pressure that had been building for years. And the mint's response was to flood the market with new coins as quickly as possible, operating at maximum capacity across all denominations to break the nationwide coin shortage that had been paralyzing vending, machines, transit systems, and everyday commerce. What this meant in practice for the 1965 Jefferson nickel is that the mint struck an enormous number of coins under intense time pressure. And critically, 1965 was also the year the mint suspended mint marks on all coins, a policy that lasted through 1967, which means your 1965 Jefferson nickel has no mint mark on the reverse at all, and that absence is itself a historically significant feature you can verify right now. Look at the reverse of your coin, just to the right of Monticello's image, where a D or S would normally appear in other years, and confirm there's nothing there, because that blank space is the physical record of a deliberate policy decision made under genuine national economic stress. Now do the full steps examination. Look at the staircase at the base of Monticello and trace each horizontal step line from left to right. In 1965, the combination of high-speed production and dies that were often pushed past their ideal service life means that full steps examples are genuinely hard to find, and the population of certified MS-67 full steps 1965 Jefferson Nickels is strikingly small. A well-worn 1965 nickel is worth 5 cents, but a certified MS-67 full steps example has commanded prices in the range of several hundred to over $1,000 depending on eye appeal, strike quality, and the specific population at the time of sale, because registry collectors building complete Jefferson nickel sets by date treat the 1965 as one of the more elusive high-grade targets in the modern era of the series. The no mint mark policy of 1965 also means that some people mistakenly believe these coins are error coins when they don't see a mint mark. They're not errors, they're products of deliberate policy. But that misunderstanding sometimes sends 1,965 nickels to dealers for examination, and occasionally one of those submissions turns out to be a genuine gem that the owner had no idea was sitting in their collection. Condition, grade, and full step status as certified by a professional service are what determine real-world value here. But you now have the specific knowledge to do your own first evaluation before that step. If you've got a coin like any of these sitting at home, drop a comment and let me know. And if you enjoyed this, hit subscribe so you never miss the next one.